Back.
Yeah, look, we're in the studio. Look, so things to clear up because people.
New 4G pitch.
4G pitch. Is it better than Featherson's was the other night? I got some stick there, Fev, but at least it's the right width.
There was a cat on the pitch.
Got corners and stuff. Sheffield Wednesday. Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't eat it. Sheffield.
Good job it wasn't West Ham.
Well, yeah.
But let's not go there.
I do like how Daniel Rugby just suspended his brother for filming it. But I was going to go into Catalans then, but I thought not.
I'm just giddy because the season's starting.
The season's back. Positivity. So people have asked for the last 2 years, where's Mark Wilson? He's on the telly.
Everywhere.
He's on the telly, for crying out loud. He's not going to be here. He's on telly now.
He's famous.
Isn't that great? Channel 4, who've got more sense than other people in employing him with people in the sport. So that's good. That's good. Danica's on the telly as well.
We give people a leg up.
We're just here. Just on YouTube. And people say, where's Scully? Where's the legend? Oh, next Tuesday. He'll be with us in Hunslet. So
live.
Yeah. Is he wearing his dressing gown?
He can walk down his slippers, can't he?
So there you go. That's what's going to happen on Tuesday.
He's just put me off now.
We might have put the audience
because
off.
Because he'll turn off in his dressing gown.
I mean,
yes, at the Phoenix Bar, 7 o'clock next Tuesday night, live.
Live in Hunslet, live in brackets South Leeds, because live in Leeds, the Hugh album, that's what I did there, culture. So it's all very exciting. So they're not here, because they're too big time for us now. But John Davidson's here, because he was in
Definitely not big time, no.
You were on New Zealand radio the other day.
I was on New Zealand radio, yeah. I was. That's the biggest radio station.
About 10 years ago, there was a bizarre thing where someone in Australia found me on Twitter talking about darts. And I ended up on about 3 different radio stations talking about darts. But only for a 2-week period 10 years ago, and never since.
And whatever happened to darts?
I don't know. Did Michael Smith beat Alex Walmsley? I know they did a thing. I didn't watch it. I should have watched it. But is Peter Wright still a Leeds fan? He might be watching on Saturday. They could get him on the commentary. Should we talk about Channel 4?
Having been allowed to go to the launch.
Oh, you were there, yeah.
They are planning on celebrity endorsement.
Celebrities? Are they real rugby league people, though, or just like people hanging on to our coattails?
Well, as Adam Hills told the assembled. When he went on Chris Evans' radio show...
I've heard of Chris Evans.
Chris Evans from Warrington, a Wolves fan. Evans said to him, can I come and co-commentate with you on the Rugby League? Well, that's what we want, isn't it?
What did I say the other week? Chris Evans versus Chris Miles. That's what this game is on Saturday. That's what it is. Hello to Emma, who's watching, by the way. She comments on most of our videos. So thank you, Emma, for doing that.
Thank you, Emma.
Apparently, that's what it's all about, is interaction and... stuff on social media. She enjoyed the interviews from Cass last week. Oh, my bag. You don't get on Channel 4. It was nice to be out.
Sweets are full.
Oh no, it's Pringles not in a tube. I mean, what's the point of that?
No.
It was nice to be invited to Castle because they're the only people who email me these days. So I thought I'd better go along and speak to some people.
And they've got a new media suite apparently.
I've not seen it yet.
Well, no, neither have I.
They've got biscuits.
I'm going to be there on Friday, and apparently no food, but. There's a new media.
9,500 people there.
Got to get there early. Get there at 3 p.m.
The buffet they had at the media day was nice.
I missed out.
Gemma Carter was enjoying it.
She was there.
Yeah.
Does she miss a meal?
She was only there because I think they'd been to Leeds in the morning. But worse places to go than Cass. So thanks for watching those videos, Emma. And I'm glad you enjoyed them. I enjoyed doing them. It was nice to be face to face with people again.
Yes,
it makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
it was weird. Carson says, "Good evening, gentlemen and John." It's a bit harsh, isn't it?
I don't know. I think that's about right.
He's still getting over State of Origin, I think. Poor Queenslander.
No. So welcome. We're back in the studio because the Super League season's back. Not to disrespect the Championship and the Challenge Cup that's gone before, but we're just back upstairs now. Channel 4. Let's start with Channel 4. Leeds versus Warrington. It's on the telly on Saturday. We're excited because our mate's on it. 2 of our mates are on it. Is anyone else on it we know? Well, you know everyone, Phil. But
Helen Skelton,
she's on it. I have enjoyed, and I've written this in my column, which might or might not make it, people saying Adam Hills is going to be biased because he's a Warrington fan, when one of the wives of the players is working on the broadcast as well.
I think he's more of a South Sydney fan, but yeah.
They're not in this, though, are they?
I think there's three things that are exciting about the start of the season, and I think we'd preface what we're going to talk about as saying the underlying problems that affect the sport haven't been solved, but there is a genuine excitement about this season start. It's been 124 days since the last game, the grand final, to tonight when it all kicks off. Tonight being Thursday if you're listening, but another day if you're not. And we've got more coverage than we've had before.
Yep.
So we're going to not only be on Channel 4 and Sky and the Super League shows back on the BBC, but the Sportsman and
Premier
Talk Sport, BBC Radio for National. So there is more opportunity for more people to see league in more ways than ever before. That's a positive. That's great, and I think that it's like a bit of a rolling snowball. That when Channel 4 sign up, somebody goes, we need a bit of a part of that. So the Sportsman will do their own stuff, or if Talk Sport say we're renewing our 2-year deal, the BBC deal is renewed. It's great, and they're feeding off each other. And it'd be really interesting to see if Sky alter their coverage a little bit, because there's another competitor in the market, which is
interesting.
Great,
I was talking to someone at Sky yesterday, and they were sort of saying it's a positive for them, Channel 4, because
Absolutely.
if they, Channel 4 gets good ratings, brings people into rugby league, they may go out and buy Sky and want to watch more games, which drives their ratings up. So
and Channel 4 said exactly the same, that it's about a partnership. They did the same with Emma Raducanu, they did the same with the Formula 1 Grand Prix to decide the season, did the same with...
Wasn't that the cricket?
Cricket, did the same with the Lions Rugby Union as well, I think. So this may be the way it's moving, that it's partnership that just generates more people watching.
I don't think you can have or not have a free-to-air presence, whether it be, whether it's every week, whether it's... But you need to have a regular free-to-air presence, because not everyone has pay TV, not everyone can afford it. And there's also 58 million different varieties of pay TV or platform viewing, whether it be Amazon, Netflix, BT, Sky, Virgin. So, I think it is really important.
And I think from what they said at the launch, Channel 4 will do it differently. So initially you won't see a huge amount of difference, but what you will see is just a different philosophy about how you present sport and how you make it exciting, and how you get this balance between bringing in a new audience because it is free to air, so that you're likely to get people who wouldn't normally tune in. And that'll be exciting, because although it won't happen in match one, although they'll do some things differently, it's a chance to redefine who we are, what we can offer. We've always felt we've had the product, but now we've got somebody who actually wants to showcase that product for what it is, which is great. I think the other thing is, going back to the 124 days, there's an appetite now to go and see the game. We're hearing that 9,500 people going to Cass on Friday night against Salford, not televised. That's fantastic. I think St Helens was saying get there early tonight because they're expecting a lot of people.
You'd think Hull KR, considering the season that they had, would be Wigan coming as well, which is a big club.
Warrington have sold 1,600 tickets for Headingley on Saturday lunchtime, which is...
Don't turn up on Sunday lunchtime.
Which is fantastic.
You'll miss it.
If you do, blame Phil Kaplan.
I think there's a feel around the place that people want to get back, whereas when we came back last year, there was still a reluctance. So we had limited numbers for a while, and then there was a feeling that I'm not sure this is the right thing to do. I think people have now said, right, want to go, missed it.
And I think there's probably a general national of getting on with COVID and getting on with lives and back to normality. But just on that, I think you can say with Channel 4 who they've chosen. Obviously, they've chosen a comedian who is a rugby league fan. They've chosen Helen Skelton, who's a TV presenter,
consummate
obviously, but not obviously has rugby league links, but is known for other things. Yep. And Kevin Sinfield, who obviously is a rugby league legend, but he's probably known for a whole selection of the population because of his charity work.
To see what he does. I mean, he should have been there this week, but he's not. The Flying Sam back. But I don't know whether Kevin is earmarked to be on all of these.
He has got a job in rugby union. So.
But I mean, the fact that he's named as part of the coverage, whether they can get him on most times or not, I would imagine what does the rugby union season finish at some point? May time, does it?
I think so, yeah. Around
So
about
you'd
May.
think that most of the games post-May he'd be available for. Brilliant. I am genuinely excited, and I'm old, so that can only be good.
Reckon on viewing figures when Wakefield are on in a couple of weeks at Warrington. That's when it'll be the big viewing figures.
The only thing, and I was quite excited when Toulouse won, and hopefully planning to get to Toulouse to see a game there at some point in this season.
More spectators than players, perhaps.
But the spectacular implosion over vaccines, and I mean, it just, you can't write it, can you? It's very sad.
What happens if restrictions are lifted? I mean, they're going to be here now at the end of February. If France follows suit not long after, and clearly each country has issues of its own, do you think they'll be welcome back? And
by Toulouse?
Because I'm
so.
surprised they haven't signed for... Jonathan Ford is the main one.
Yeah. Well, they're two best players. Obviously, there's doubt over Corella, but Ford has gone. That's
Ford has walked away. But Ford, again, is in a position where you think certainly most championship clubs would cover him, and that he would have been signed up by now. But is the fact that he hasn't because he's likely to be welcomed back into the fold in Toulouse if things change?
Yeah, I don't have any...
You'd hope so.
...inside information, but it just seems madness to effectively throw away your chance at Super League after working so hard to get there. And also, allied to that, obviously, if Mark Corell's not playing this weekend, how much he plays, I don't know, but he's a big loss. And they've only got, I think before that, I had a look at their squad, I think they've only got something like 27 players, so that's, 25? I mean, that's not enough to compete in Super League.
Toronto found that in the 5 games that they played in Super League, that what struck more than anything else wasn't the ability of the players that it could name first up, it's that 3 injuries in and you haven't got a team really. So
and Toulouse have really, you look at their signings, with all due respect, they're very poor. So you look at every other club, including your Salfords and Wakefields, they've got a lot stronger squads on paper. And also, history shows that the promoted team, what did Lee win, 2 games last season, 3 games? I mean, they struggle. So that unless they pull off a miracle.
Well, interestingly, they've got Huddersfield on Saturday, and Huddersfield have left some names out of their squad going to France, which you would think again might be to do with the vaccination regulations.
Maybe. I mean, it is a big issue. It's not going away anywhere, and we saw with Jason Tamalolo this week. It was funny to see some people, tweeting, and it's his personal information, it's his private medical. The thing is, though, it impacts on his ability to actually play the sport that he's paid more than $1 million to do. So that's why they're legitimate questions. And if you're his club or fans, you want to know why your star player is not taking the field.
Although he will, because he has actually had COVID, which apparently exempts him for a short period of time.
If you know that, that's the Novak Djokovic defence.
Yeah,
that's that one. Yeah, that went well, didn't it? Yeah. Someone who also won't be playing this week is Big Bad Blake Austin of the Leeds Rhinos.
What did he do, Rich?
I don't know.
It was a slightly late. Well, it was a late enough tackle on Luke Gale in a pre-season friendly to deserve a 1-match ban.
Was it a bit cheeky? Was it a bit naughty, or was it? Funny that it was Gale, the player that he essentially forced out of Headingley.
Going back to that incident, the strange thing was that it was the pass from Gale to Davy Litton that Fussy Tua smashed Litton.
Ah, right.
So everybody at the time thought it was Fussy Tua's tackle on Litton that was the one that was being pulled up, which was actually completely legal and just very well timed. It was a bit of a hospital pass
and he just nailed him,
But Gale's pass, after he made it, he was hit slightly late by Austin, and that's why Austin got sin-binned.
There's been a clampdown on that for the past few years, isn't it? Hitting playmakers after.
And there should be. I think the issue is about when the disciplinary case was heard and not whether he was guilty of a 1-match ban, which he... It's not being contested, so I think they clearly felt that he was.
So who will it be Richie Myler in the halves and Jack Walker at fullback?
Could be, or it could be Cruz Leeming in the halves and Brad Dwyer at hooker. But yeah, I think Walker will start, Myler will be in the halves. Well, but I think the issue about the Austin thing is not whether he did it or not. I think he clearly did, and the 1-match ban is commensurate with obviously those sort of penalties. It's whether or not the disciplinary could or should have sat earlier.
Yeah.
And if he could or should have used the Hunslet friendly, which he wouldn't have played in anyway, as the one match ban
like
that he would have served.
Like the 1 month that Rangy Chasers wasted by not doing anything. Yeah, it's good that.
But I do think the argument that just because Channel 4 had already filmed a feature about him, he should have been exempt, probably doesn't wash.
No, I mean, I did enjoy yesterday's...
The Latrell Mitchell style.
Yeah, yesterday's Twitter spat between Rod Studd and Martin Sandler was great entertainment when I was working yesterday, so it must have been another day. Whatever it was great fun. But I mean, this is the sport where we've been to Magic Weekend launch events in Newcastle in the olden days, where clubs would send players who'd been suspended or were about to be suspended or were never going to play. Or in the case of the Caroline Dragons, send someone who couldn't speak English, which was good.
Who wasn't going to play.
To do interviews. Oh, yeah. He didn't either, did he? No, so,
it's quite funny, really.
So, yeah, it was. A great interview with me and Morgan Escaré somewhere on the internet.
It would have been nice to see Austin against his old club. It would have been another narrative, and you can see why Channel 4 would have filmed that in advance. And the whole Caesar and Austin combining again, like they did in Canberra, was it 2016, when they took them to within an ace of the grand final. It's an interesting story, but, you know.
Just get Brad Dwyer, you play for Wellington. But the point, I think the most important point that Rod Studd made was... Because sometimes you might be contrary, but sometimes you might not be. I don't know. You have to try and work it out, don't you? But as he said, if Phil Taylor misses a darts event, that's big for the general public. The general public at this moment in time don't know who Blake Austin is. So it's not. You know,
that's true.
And that's no knock on Blake Austin. It's no knock on Rugby League necessarily. But you know, the general public don't know who he is. It's like Wigan giving away Martin a Fire signed shirt this week. Well, why don't you give away a signed shirt for one of your actual players who's still there now? Who, you know, trying to promote I'm not knocking Wigan for that, but promote personalities of today, not 30 years ago, whatever.
Which is something I think Channel 4 will do very well.
Oh, yes.
And one of the reasons why I think, you know, they felt that Austin's a character. He's a guy who's a little bit out of the norm. So I think they wanted to promote him in this particular game, and yeah, that's why the issue has got more publicity than perhaps it needs to. But the disciplinary should have sat in time for that decision to be made. But
loads of comments, because you're all chomping at the bit, as they say. I'll work backwards. Shield says, Warrington giving coach trouble for £1 for each way. And that's exactly what clubs should be doing. They've got to make these games on Channel 4 events.
Well, the great thing about Premier...
Premier and Sky, because they're behind a paywall, aren't they?
Yeah, but the thing about Premier is the first two games they've shown have had great crowds and loud crowds, and that lends to the atmosphere, and that makes more people tuning in, and their social media has been very good as well, telling you what's on. And you suddenly think, oh, where's next week's game? If I'm close, I might go and watch that. So, no, I think the more that Warrington can get there, hats off and full credit to them. Who was the football team this week? Was it Crystal Palace that played Hartlepool in the Cup and paid for all of their travel? But brilliant. We want more of that.
Carsten, beer at 12:30 will not make the missus happy, but who cares? Well, not Carsten.
Well, his missus might.
Celebrity St Helens supporter Ian Boldsworth says, how can you be a Rugby League supporter and not have an affiliation with a specific team? They'd be huffing just as much if they present a new nout about the game. There'll still be. Some will still moan, whatever. On Saturday, Channel 4 will no doubt have to promote their upcoming Rugby Union coverage, and people will moan about that. Like they say, oh, Sky never promote Rugby League. Yes, they do. You just don't notice it. We're only noticing all these adverts on Channel 4 for Super League because we're noticing it, because they...
We don't expect to see them.
Zachary says, well, the best curtain raisers he's ever seen.
We haven't seen many then. It's very kind, but...
Sheila thinks it's going to be a new era with it being on Channel 4. It could be.
I think the ones... The only...
Hashtag
God, that's what I've forgotten about.
I think having been... Again, there and listen to what they're planning to do. Read it in the new issue. No, you'll be able to next week. We've got to be careful that they've only got 10 games.
Yeah.
So don't expect them to do too much too quickly. The important thing is they've signed for 2 years, so it's 20 games. But if it takes them 3 or 4 to get that style over and decide what they want to do and what access they want and how they could do things, you know, that's not going to leave them a lot of scope for the rest of this season. So I don't think we should expect too much too quickly, but it is a great opportunity.
I can easily answer Robert's question. Where's Gary? No, he's back on Tuesday. We're doing a live show in Hunslet. He'll be there. If you can't be there, we'll try and get it filmed, and there'll be a podcast as well. So he is back.
We'll get the benefit of his predictions.
Vision and awareness.
Which will all be wrong.
Emma says, what are your thoughts on the Premier Sports lineup? You know what, this is, and I'm not saying this to be pedantic, I've not seen any of it because I don't subscribe to the channel, which I probably should do, but it's just an extra expense.
I think what they get right from my point of view, I think that their experts are really good because they have an ability to explain what's happened. So Kevin Brown and Leon Price are really good at that. Jodie Cunningham's great because she comes at it again from a slightly different perspective in the questions she asked. Emma Jones is absolutely great at presenting it because again I think she's learned, as you've always said about Mark Chapman, you're not really there to proffer an opinion, you're there to get the best out of those that do have an opinion, and Adam Hills will do the same. The first thing he said was, don't look at me as an expert, I'm here to be a translator, if you like. Well, Emma can operate in that role as well. Not sure about the commentator, I don't know.
He's everywhere, you can't escape from him.
He's the best.
He is.
So yeah, I think they've got it right.
You know, it's. I think you almost don't notice a good commentator because they're really good at what they do. But if you happen to stumble on something in whatever sport and you don't take to the commentator, it's a massive distraction. So much so that if you're just a floating viewer, like if the football's on, you think, oh, I'll watch the football for a bit, but the commentator's not one to your length. I just turn it and watch something else.
Is the guy, ITV, is it Sam Matterface?
He's very Marmite, isn't he? Because some people
Marmite, he's atrocious. Yeah.
John Davidson.
Yeah, no, I mean, he
gets a lot of stick on social media.
Because he's rubbish. Yeah.
I think those commentators...
But yeah, it proves your point, Rich.
Those commentators that are there to describe the action and not themselves.
Yeah. It's the Richie Benno style, isn't it? You don't just speak to fill airtime. You make pointed observations and you facilitate your experts and your pundits,
and if it is exciting, you make it sound exciting, and if it isn't, you don't dress it up as though it is.
Yes,
without saying everything in the olden days was great, because obviously it wasn't. But Test Match Special was much better in the olden days than it is now. But that's just opinions on personalities.
One of the most famous pieces of commentary ever. They think it's all over. Gap. It is now.
Yeah, the pause.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's sometimes what isn't said that makes it, rather than the constant rambling.
Speaking of great punditry, I did just notice on Facebook Phil Clark's predictions for the year. I'll just give him a quick read. Grand final winners, Warrington Wolves.
Warrington. Is they here in fairness?
Yeah, I mean,
fairness to Phil.
They have won a lot of grand finals in the last 66 years.
Yeah.
Man of Steel, Brad Takarangi.
I don't really have an opinion on the Man of Steel because I don't know anything about rugby.
No, I mean, he's a good player, Brad Takarangi. I mean, just be careful when he's driving around the streets, but yeah. I don't know if Phil Clark's doing it for laughs or kicks or what, but I mean, Salford was the famous one.
Before they ever did get anywhere near a grand final, he was talking up Salford.
I think that was the Kukash area, yeah.
I think I've seen him saying Hull KR are going to maybe go close to a grand final. So
I think them to finish above Hull. But I don't think that's necessarily sticking my neck on the line there.
No.
And my tipping is notoriously poor, so...
I think the other thing to mention about why this season looks quite exciting, and I think you've alluded to it in your piece that you've done for the Eye, is that a quarter of the coaches have changed. And there's a feeling...
More than a quarter.
Well, a quarter have sort of changed over the closed season.
Yeah. But if you look at it,
if you look
nearly half.
Yeah, if you include those who took over whilst the last season on. But I think as well there seems to be a change in philosophy, and that the teams who are going to be successful are those that encourage their sides to play rather than stifle. So I think it's going to be really interesting watching Warrington under Darryl Powell, because yes, he's got to be successful, and more pressure heaped on him by Phil Clark, but I think they're going to have to play a certain style that they didn't under Steve Price. I think Lee Radford has got to inherit that mantle of, you can't just be what your old Hull team were. There's almost a licence you have to entertain if you're going to have that classic cast mantle. That is in the DNA, isn't it? Yeah. I think Paul Rowley at Salford is looking at wanting to play a certain way whereby he wants his guys to express themselves. I think Richard Agar is of that philosophy at Leeds and always has been, and he's a disciple of Tony Smith, and they're not going to change at Hull KR the way. And you're starting to look down the league. Willie Poaching as well is of that Tony Smith school of. I would encourage you, if you see it, to play it.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of the league this year that are going to entertain. Perhaps not in the early rounds when the weather's terrible, but that's going to put the focus and the spotlight on clubs like Hull, particularly, maybe Huddersfield, because I think Ian Watson isn't renowned for that. And again, you look at some of the signings they've made. I think Danny Levy's going to be a good signing for them, but I think they're going to be one of the more direct sides rather than expansive. Wigan will be really interested in that regard because Matty Pete is saying all the right things. I think he's really impressive in the way he's gone about.
He's got an English degree, Phil.
Well, and he's gone up in my estimation. Somebody who reads books.
I know. Maybe if he needs to find a bookshop in Leeds, you can help him out.
But the fact is that behind him, over his shoulder, is Sean Wayne, and we know the way Sean wants to play the game.
He's learned off Sean Wayne and Michael Maguire.
So you can say we're going to play expansively, but the possibility is the DNA of that club means that
the proof of the pie is in the eating.
The proof of the pies is in the playing. But I think it's interesting because I think teams that are successful this year will play rugby, and that's refreshing.
And one thing I did notice on social media this week, I didn't read it all, I just glanced at it, but was Sean Wayne having a bit of a dig at Warrington, or perhaps something about it, they didn't impress him in the friendly? He's a big fan of Darryl Bell, though, isn't he?
Yeah, they get on.
We do. But that's great. That's what we need. That's a storyline. We want a bit of rivalry, a bit of spite.
Especially when he's not the one picking the team and doesn't have to deal with the fallout.
No,
good.
Exactly. Yeah.
Carson asks, could Toulouse register players from their Elite side to play in Super League after French season ends?
I think the squad that they named had a player in who hasn't been in their fully announced squad. In fact, I don't think he even had a number allocated to him. So I think they could. I think that's already happening. Yeah, I think that's already happening.
The problem with that is,
are they good enough?
Yeah. Where do you rate the? I mean, I can hold my hand up. I've never watched the competition, but would probably rank below League One. No,
I think on par with the Championship. I think when you look at some of the players who Maloney's playing there, and
Battieri, but that's only
they are the exception.
I was going to say that's really
not the
only
rule.
But
I think it's Championship standard rather than League One.
Yeah, I would hazard a guess. Most of them are not up to the rigours.
But again, I think Toulouse bringing in a player who has never played at that level, it's a dangerous road to go now.
Yeah.
Matt has tweeted me. Having mentioned Martin Afire and giving away a shirt. I don't know why I got onto that point, but anyway I did. It's Wigan's 150th anniversary, says Matt. Maybe it's the anniversary of the fact that he's a legend. Of course, as Neil Lobson, who was with us last week, will tell us, it's not their 150th anniversary. Well, they're lying to you. We're going to lie to you. So
it's a great excuse to have a scotch made.
And a new badge. Yeah. Wakefield have got a new badge. It says Wakefield Trinity on it. It's very clean, nice.
We've also got pies, apparently, on Sunday.
Have they? Wow.
Yeah. So the chips have gone, but we've got pies.
That's my... Now they've got my wage off the books. They're going to afford some pies.
I'll eat as many pies as I can just to make up for you, Rich.
Were they established in 1873 as per their badge?
Wakefield, yes.
Yeah.
Their old badge. That's the old
is that their old badge?
Yeah. I don't know why they've changed it. There'll be some marketing nonsense reason for it, isn't there? But it makes sense, though, because on the women's shirt, it sometimes said they established in 1873, which, of course, the club was, but the women's team wasn't. But I don't know. We've signed some players, Wakefield women, anyway, so it's good. Castle have not got any players left, I don't think, which is a bit disappointing. Women's Super League season coming, so Challenge Cup next month. I think I'm going to go to a couple of games in the
group stages.
Yeah. Because Wakefield might win some, so I've got to go on the bandwagon now. Why are we short of forwards, says Sheila. Wakefield might be to an extent as well. Is there a dearth of forwards? Has someone got them all? Where are they?
I suspect that, again, going back to the style that teams are going to play with, I think we're going to move away from having too many big players and actually having more mobile forwards.
But now scrums are back, so they can have a rest.
Although, clearly Hull haven't read that message because they just signed big forwards.
Is that in Adam Pearson's style guide for signings? Just big Polynesians?
Well, I'm sure no doubt we'll talk about each of the teams and the fixtures coming up, but I do think that Hull have got the most difficult start, not in terms of necessarily who they're playing, but if they were to lose at Wakefield on Sunday, I think their second game is away, home to St Helens.
I think that's right, yeah. on Channel 4.
And you wouldn't want to start with the potential of 2 defeats. They've got a few injuries.
I was going to say, presumably Jake Connor's broken hand not playing.
They've not announced the squad yet.
Someone tell Channel 4 not to speak to him then, just in case.
Yeah, don't interview. But I think there's always a club that picks up quite a lot of injuries in pre-season and never actually shakes it off. It looks like it could be Hull.
It's really season. The last thing, though, considering how bad they were in the final third of the last season. It's the last thing they need.
What they probably didn't need as well is just signing Cade Evans is another of what they've already got. I haven't seen in pre-season a huge amount of variety in what they're going to do this year, which they'll probably win their first 2 games and be top of the league, which I accept. But I think they've got the toughest start of all because the biggest amount of pressure will be on them.
Well, let's talk about the Championship then before we jump into the Super League, as we'll forget and run out of time.
Yeah, because we don't want the Chile to go.
No, Widnes are top, as are Batley and Barrow, because there's the league table after 2 games. And after 1 game, that was pointless, but after 2, it's even more pointless because it's not even right, this, because Featherstone beat Leon on Monday on the telly. Although that doesn't factor in this league table. But so that was it. What a week for Lee. They win by 50 points. They get hammered at Fev. But Widnes, they obviously were very impressed. They've got 104 points already. Who do they think they are?
Well, they got 17.
Yeah. Or did they get 68? No one's quite sure.
That's a minimum requirement, knowing what the result of a game is.
I mean, fairness, I lost count at Wakefield versus Huddersfield women last year, so, and I was about the only media person there, so, well, in fact I was. So, I mean, that's even more concerning. How can I be in the... No, anyway. So, yeah, Widnes are starting well. That's good. York bounced back from losing on the telly to beat Dewsbury 30 points to 2. Barrow beat Whitehaven in the big... Barrow isn't really in Cumbria.
Atrocious conditions.
Ridiculous. 18-4. Batley, so they've started well because they're on our programme. 32-40.
We like Linners. Columnist now in 40.
Halifax beat London again in atrocious conditions. The footballers, they didn't play the day before, did they, at Halifax Town? But the Rugby League players did, which no doubt will have buggered up the pitch and give Halifax Town fans something to moan about. 28-0 for Halifax over London. So people have already said London in crisis, but they were saying that before the season anyway. And Sheffield Eagles beat Bradford 28-14, which is always funny. So well done, the Eagles.
That's a massive result for the Eagles, having lost to Barrow the week
the mighty Eagles.
The only I think downside, and interesting again on that Bradford are now at Lee on Monday, and if Bradford were to lose 2 out of 3, would the natives start getting restless? I don't know. The only disappointment in the Championship was the crowd at Newcastle, because I think the crowds have been really good. We said that last week, and again, 3,500 at Bradford is great. 1,500 at Halifax in that weather against London, perfectly acceptable. Whitehaven Barrow, not far short of 2,000. 3,500 at Widnes, which is, again, very encouraging. 1,500 at York, which wasn't quite as the 3,500 they got against Featherstone, but, perfectly acceptable. But only 638 at Newcastle, and they've gone full time, and there's a lot of, again, good vibes around the place. We're going there for Magic and the start of the World Cup. You would hope that there was a bit more interest about over 1,000. You would hope for a home game. So that's a bit of a concern.
I'm wondering who Bradford are going to play against the Midlands Hurricanes on Saturday, a pre-season friendly, since they played Lee on Monday.
It was always meant to be a reserve team fixture.
Have they got any players on Joe Reg from Leeds?
Well, one who they did have on loan is in the Leeds squad again for Saturday, so Jared O'Connor won't be playing.
Joe Reg thing, people upset because Dewsbury have got the Hull Kingston Rovers vice-captain playing for them on Sunday, but you can't just say, it's only like players we don't like who can play on Joe Reg.
Well, he's coming back from injury, so...
And the reserves haven't started yet, which is reserves is the panacea to all ills.
No. We shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, but 20,000 people watched Scoy play for the reserves in 1983 or something. So
20,000 at the Boulevard.
When I was ball boy, reserve Alliance games back in the early 90s, there were not thousands of people at Bellevue on a Thursday night.
You've got to ask, why did we stop doing reserves?
Because because it's cheaper to send players to
And the
G3.
thing is, this is a season whereby, again, we're cramming in 27 rounds leading up to a World Cup. We've still got dual reg, we've still got loan, we've still got COVID regulations at the moment, and the possibility of a 48-0 defeat if you don't fulfil a fixture. We probably shouldn't be having reserve grade this year. This was not the year to bring it back.
I tell you what a Saturday it is, right? On the telly, Leeds versus Warrington, followed by Lock Lane versus Rochdale Hornets on the Sportsman, followed by Royal Navy versus York Acorn on our league, followed by Toulouse versus Huddersfield.
On Sky.
You're also missing the two All-Star games.
And the morning, yeah, that's Australia. I've got to get up early for that.
I think one of the games is 9:30. Really.
Yeah, but I'm like Women's Rugby League correspondent person. I'm going to go put sit down, tape it, and watch it afterwards.
Practice your haka.
As long as anyone comes on and swears afterwards, which is always good, because they love that in Australia.
As we're probably not talking about Australia at the moment, because their season doesn't start.
We're talking about cricket.
No, I was going to.
It's on BT.
I was going to say
it doesn't count.
You lost.
Yeah.
We have lost.
Oh yeah.
Some
very sad
incredibly significant players for the sport, whether they played over the other side or here. Johnny Raper, one of the original Immortals. Olsen Filipina this morning. The man who really started the trend of Pacifica Rugby League players coming over and playing, and now we're absolutely indebted to the skill and talent of them. And of course, Des Drummond. You know, three of the real greats in New Zealand, Australia, and in England, and that's cast a shadow over the start of the season.
Yeah, it's very
sad.
Mean,
Johnny Raper, the more I read about him, the more you think that the greatest post-war forward to play for Australia.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything he didn't do. I mean, was it something like 8 premierships in St George? I mean, captain Australia World Cup win, I think in 68 or
played for Australia from 59 to 68. I think 39 tests and
39 tests
was undroppable unless he was injured. He played.
Yeah, and he wasn't a big.
No,
he was quite small, but he was skillful. He was tough,
and an exemplary tackle.
Yeah, and he could drink apparently.
Oh, he loved champagne.
Yeah. Well, apparently, I think I heard one story. I think it was last year. Something about he'd had a big night on the drink, slept in his car. I think it might have even been before a grand final, and then woke up not feeling too good, so he decided to go for like a 4-mile run, as a warm up. I mean, they don't make them like that anymore.
He was incredibly fit, and a lot of that was running off alcohol, apparently. Yeah. But if you've seen any of the footage on social media, it looked absolutely
apparently
amazing.
A lovely guy, very approachable, very down to earth.
Became a test selector as well, and
I mean, he's an immortal.
Yeah,
you can't really. I mean, in terms of from the Australian side of things, you can't get a greater honour than himself. Bob Fulton, Graham Langlands, and Clive Churchill.
So we Olsen Filipina, probably the only player I ever saw who tamed Wally Lewis in a test match.
I was just about to say. I mean, I don't remember him. Even though I was watching games in the 80s, I don't remember him playing for Balmain or North.
I remember him coming over here on a Kiwi tour.
I've got the book about him, that I'm planning to read when I have some time. But yeah, he terrorised Wally Lewis in a test match, or I think more than one. I mean, that says it all.
Yeah, that's it. And Des Drummond, you would have.
I would have seen
Des?
I think in his later days at Warrington,
fantastic.
I read this stat last week, and
very young, wasn't he? Too, Des?
63,
yeah, very sad. Yeah.
And again, it goes back to.
Well, Olsen was only 65.
Yeah.
It goes back to the exposure of people on free-to-air television. Des Drummond, not just in his playing career then, because of course we didn't have Sky or whatever in those days, but not in the early days of his career, but appearing on Superstars, which and in an Olympic qualifying time.
Yeah, he was obviously quick.
Which is ridiculous, isn't it?
A genuine superstar of rugby league who then went and proved to the watching nation that we weren't all big buffheads.
Yeah.
That we were absolute athletes. And Keith Fielding had done it the generation before, but the two of them. But again, when you saw Des's name on a team sheet for the opposition, you just thought, I would love him on our team. He was fantastic. The greatest international try of the century, scored by Mr. G. Schofield in Brisbane in '84. I think Des, who was outside him, handled 2 or 3 times in that. Just brilliant. Almost unstoppable when he had the ball in his hands.
We'll ask him on Tuesday.
Oh,
sure
we have to.
He'll have plenty
we have
to say
to.
about.
Yeah, we'll take some Kleenex because he will cry. He was genuinely upset when he heard the news, as you would be. But yeah, what a wonderful player, and so, the like of which we'd like to see still in the game, playing their trade on Channel 4, so we can build them up as superstars.
And as we always say at this point, it's important we tell these people how great they are while they're still around, so they know how much they are loved and respected as
and
as
I
players
think the sad thing as well for Des is that he had just been invited back to Lee, who was celebrating this year winning the championship in 1982. He was an absolutely integral part of that, and they've got events planned, and on the eve of that, to hear that one of the people that made that happen wasn't going to be able to join them was very sad.
So the season starts tonight.
It does.
Because it always continues, it never stops, unfortunately.
An hour and a bit.
St
Helens versus Catalans in the traditional repeat of the grand final game that Sky always put on the first weekend. They're going to win a fourth straight title, aren't they, John?
I think if you were a betting man or woman, you would be having a flutter on that. I mean, they're just an amazing team. And if you look at the other teams in the competition, and I think Catalans are probably the strongest challengers, at least on paper. I can't really see any weakness in St Helens. I mean, obviously they get 10 to 15 injuries, but they've had injuries over the last 3 years, and they've managed to cope, and they've gotten a great academy system. You look at their signings that are brought in Hopewadi and Sirinen, and obviously Joey Lussick, who was so good at Salford. Big Connie's dropped 10, 15 kilograms.
That picture they used on the BBC website, that was a shocker of a picture. Oh.
I think the thing about St Helens is, at every prediction league that I've seen on social media or in papers or magazines, I haven't found anybody that hasn't said St Helens are going to be top of the league. That's how good they are. No, well, he said Warrington will win the grand final. He's probably got St Helens top of the league, but
I think he's got Toulouse top of the league.
But the thing about St Helens is they lose players who you would think are going to make a huge material difference, like Lachlan Coo and Theo Farge, and then you think, yeah, but that's just made room for Jack Wellesby and Lewis Dodd.
Well, the people forget about Theo Farge. He didn't play about half the season. Lewis Dodd seamlessly came in. He played in the grand final. They groomed him perfectly.
Yeah. And they're going to miss Rig and Grace for maybe the first month of the season. But that's an opportunity for a Conrad Hurrell to come in, and you just think
they've got
wow,
depth. Yeah.
That's great recruitment, great junior development, and a coach who consistently gets the best out of what he's got. So why wouldn't you think they were going to win it again?
And I think if it's James Roby's final season, perfect way to go out with the grand final, and also Christian Wolff. I mean, I think if you were going to put a bet on he'll be coaching in the NRL next year, it's the perfect way to kind of sign off his time at Helens 3.
When he wins the World Cup with Tonga.
That would be some send off. Yeah, I think there'd be a statue in a few places. Yeah.
But no, I'm not as sure about Catalan. I think again that's a really interesting team to watch this year. I don't think they over-exceeded last year. I think they brilliantly cured their travel sickness. I don't know if they can do it again this year. I don't think they're any weaker, but I think, again, we talk about style of play. They're not going to be expansive. Not initially. They can be if they want to be. And with Arthur Morg, again, who is injured and he's not going to play for the first few, probably months of the season, there's an X factor that they could have brought off the bench that they're not going to have.
You don't think they're stronger though with Dylan Napper and Tyrone May? I mean, obviously Mitchell Pearce is a very, very similar to James Maloney in terms of. I mean, they literally were a halves combination.
I think they are. I think Napper is renowned as one of the best defenders in the game. So yeah, that ups that side of their game. I think
Tyrone May is just coming off an NRL grand final win.
May could be anything and could play in a number of positions, which is great. Pearce is interesting because he's going to need some time to bed in that key position. No matter how good you are, you're not only moving to a new club, but a whole new cultural lifestyle. You can't expect him to start with Catalan the way he probably finished. Interesting,
I think all those young players that
they've got to play them though.
Yeah, but they gained experience last year, and talking to some of the Catalans players in the off season, I think they're thinking that those young kids have got experience last year.
Yes,
they'll be better for that. They're developing.
They've just got to be played, and that's the thing that sometimes Steve McNamara is a little conservative in his team selections, and the kids are the ones that tend to get left out. Darryl Powell, by comparison, if he sees a kid that he thinks can play, he's not worried, he'll play him. I think Matty Ashton, for example, is going to be a different player under Darryl Powell, because he'll get, like, you do what I ask you to do, you're in every week.
Will he be playing at fullback, though? Or
No,
will
he'll be playing on the wing.
On the wing, yeah.
To start with.
But no, I think with Helens, I think, if they win tonight,
If
that's a
they
real
win-
statement.
statement, yeah.
Going
Yeah.
to Lone Tree Park and totally wicked stadium.
But I don't think they will tonight. So if you listen to this after tonight's game and Catalan have won, I didn't just say that.
I've got a bet on St Helens, so I really hope they don't win. But anyway,
I found my
gamble responsibly.
I found my league table. I want a Saints double, men and women, to win their. And it's not going to be the biggest double out there. And I've forgotten now. The season started. I should have asked them weeks ago, but never mind. I've got Saints top, and I've got Catalans third, because it's an arbitrary list of teams, and I knew who I wanted top.
Who have you got second?
Well, they play on Saturday, so we'll come to that in a moment. Because on Friday, there are two games. One's on telly. It's Hull KR versus Wigan at the exciting Craven Park Megadome.
Really looking forward
food
to that.
and everything.
I'm looking forward to that.
A stadium with food?
I know. But
And entertainment.
everyone's doing it now, aren't they? Everyone's having
Isn't it now the Sewell Group Craven Park?
Oh, I don't know. It's still
It should be
Bellevue.
the Willie Mason Megadome.
It's still Bellevue to me, and it's now called the Be-Well Stadium. I remember it was the Hearwell Stadium.
Pardon?
The Atlantic Solutions Stadium, that was a good one.
I'll be well if I can get a park. That's what.
Oh.
Yeah, you will, but it'll be in Doncaster.
Yeah, we're going to build a stand on that. So I don't know where you're going to park when we've built, rebuilt it. We've only Walker Memorial Stadium. What do you mean
It's not
alive?
Yeah.
Castleford. Hull KR first. Where am I? Hull KR Wigan. We mentioned this game briefly in passing. This is an interesting one because obviously Wigan under new management and Hull KR not, but exciting and have to back up what they did last year.
Well, they've lost some key players, Wigan. I don't think it's been, they lost the Jackson Hastings, the man of steel, a couple of years ago. They lost Oliver Gildart. A couple of forwards there turning club, Joe Bullock. There's some others that I can't remember off the top of my head, but
George Burgess.
Yeah, we kind of left.
No, but he left, but he was part of
But I think that if you look at their recruitment, they've essentially signed 3 players from the NRL who weren't real, regular first graders, unlike St Helens, who signed all, apart from us, established NRL first graders. So they could be very good signings, they could be astute signings, but we don't really know.
I think Mago's a good signing. I think he's
not seen really a lot of him. I mean, I don't think he played a lot of.
I think he's got the size and athleticism to be a hit over here. Pressure on Cade Cost.
Yeah. Most of his footy's been at hooker.
He's going to be Jackson. He's got to be Jackson Hastings, isn't it?
It's a big and also Bevan French probably won't play for I don't know how long. I don't even know if he's back in the country yet.
I think he's due back next week.
Yeah, I mean he's going to take some time, but you think Zach Hardacre will be at fullback, which is not a bad a choice. But right. Bevan French, you would want him at his So I think I think Hull KR real good chance of this opening game at home, big crowd, a lot of positivity around Hull KR.
I thought they might struggle a bit this year because they'd have the target on their back, and everybody would say, "Look, we need to stop them playing the way they want." But actually, I think that from the sound that's coming out of Hull KR is they're actually relishing that. They're going to take that on board. I think Danny Maguire joining the coaching staff and taking a particular interest in developing their halfbacks is a really big step forward. Not that those kids aren't talented anyway, but just having him in their ear at training all the time.
More experience for Mikey Lewis, is great.
If you're Mikey Lewis and somebody says you can have Danny Maguire at every training session.
Well, that was his idol growing up. That was the player he idolised. Yeah, I don't think it gets much sweeter for him.
And I think Lachlan Coote at the back is massive.
Yes,
I think you put him in with Kenny Dowell and Hall, and you've suddenly got that. Yeah, we'll play a bit, but actually, if we need to just slow it down for 10 minutes, or kick to the corner, or regroup, or take a breath, or you've got 3 guys there that can run a game. I'm really interested. I'm really looking forward to this game because I think it'll be an interesting test of who Wigan are going to be, what their identity is going to be this year, and I think it'll be a real feel-good factor about Hull KR, and they'll probably get at least 8,500 there, and it's going to be a fantastic atmosphere in that stadium.
Here's the sarcastic part. Were you invited to Wigan's Media Day, John?
I was.
Did you go?
I didn't go. No, I couldn't make it. But by all accounts,
schmoozing the media, weren't they? Giving out stuff and having a quiz and stuff.
All credit to them. In all seriousness, I mean, there's quite a few clubs who didn't have any media day.
I only get invited to Castleford, so I can't. As you see, it says in my Twitter bio, not the journalist. I think people take that seriously.
There's quite a few clubs who either held them on Zoom or didn't hold them at all, or I didn't get invited. But no, full credit to Wigan. They opened up the gym. You could get any player you want. I mean, that's the kind of the access. But
also, I think once they'd done it, a couple of other clubs who might not have thought of doing it said, we'll operate the same way. So it was important that one club said, we're not going to do it on Zoom.
Because we talk about, TV coverage increasing, which it is, in terms of actual journalists going to games, that has decreased. And in terms of mainstream media coverage, in print and I would arguably say online, has decreased as well. So, I think getting back to
in terms of quantity and quality.
Definitely quality.
But
seriously,
that makes no sense. Sky reverting to an 8 o'clock kickoff for their games.
I don't. Yeah, has that been explained? I've not seen. Another thing that strikes me is odd, Phil, and I mean it's probably a component of the Saturday fixtures, which we haven't really had 12:30 kickoffs, but there's not many Sunday games. There's
more
kind of one
teams
game
playing on Saturdays.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of a standard. You would usually get 2 or 3 games on a Sunday. Yeah, we seem to. There's an unusual spread. And looking at the first few rounds, there's not many games on a Friday night. Usually there would be 3 or 4 sometimes.
So without guessing, are either Cass or Salford playing on Thursday next week? Because Cass would usually play on a Sunday if they're not on telly. Because Wakefield always play on Sunday. That's always been the traditional day.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure what the televised games are next week.
We don't. I asked you the question. We don't know.
It's Wigan Leeds on Friday. Is the televised game?
But no, the 8 o'clock. I don't know why that is, and also
which of course means
we're not having the video ref that we were.
People will now complain that there's no reports in the national media on Sky televised games because they'll miss the deadline when they finish.
Clubs should do what Wigan did, and open up access not just pre-season but all the time.
And I think that's been one of the impressive things about Matty Pete. That
he's been willing to engage.
They lost a link, perhaps, with telling people what they were doing and why they were doing it with the community and with the press, and it was almost as if because we're Wigan, you need to come and report us rather than we need to give you reason to come and report us. And I think he wants to change all that, probably because he's got an English degree, but good on him. I hope that works for them.
Well, let's see all the clubs not.
Scully wants them to be relegated.
Does he?
He wouldn't put that in print, but he does.
He's not bitter at all, is he?
No, not at all.
CG, do my job for me. Warrington Cass next Thursday. I've only got this week's paperback. I don't have next week's yet. So,
yes, Darryl Powell. His first 2 games are against his 2 former clubs, which again,
hopefully Lee Radford's playing Hull FC soon. He's Cass.
So that's Hull KR versus Wigan. I've got Wigan finishing 5th for some reason, but again, I just made it up.
The big thing is, because we got 27 rounds...
Who are you, Boris Johnson, just making things up?
Because we got 27 rounds, injuries are going to play a factor. And the one thing nobody can factor in when we're all sitting down going, it'll be in this order, is you just don't know the teams that aren't going to pick their best players.
I think there are a number of teams, though, obviously because there are a lot of new coaches, there are a number of teams you just generally don't know how they... I mean, I think probably, as you said, everyone's picked St Helens to win, and everyone's picked Toulouse to go down.
Yeah. Other than that...
Surely the aforementioned Gemma Carter will have picked Salford to win.
Yeah.
She is biased, but she's allowed to be.
Well, she doesn't watch any games,
I don't
so it's a bit hard to kind of pick.
I don't think she's put them to win, but she certainly hasn't put them
second.
10th or 11th, where most other people have put them.
Herod Mike Pete could talk about books.
Yeah.
That could be a thing. Wigan TV could do that, so there's an idea for you.
Matty's recommended reads as told to Gemma Carter.
Also on Friday, at the soon-to-be renovated Super Jungle, Castleford versus Salford. It's very exciting that Castleford are going to... Richie Mathers, what a line he span on the Twitter the other day saying, why don't they build a stadium that Castle and Wakefield could share?
I think I said that 6 years ago.
People got very upset about it.
Did they?
No, it makes sense, doesn't it? I forgot to ask, because I was in the press conference when they were talking about this, I forgot to ask, was there any thought about that?
We'll get Richie in.
Yeah,
He'll come in.
Nothing kind of compares to a story about a stadium development. The amount of argument and
It's not going to happen. Never going to happen.
People very protective of the jungle, even though you have to urinate against the wall.
And you daren't plug your laptop in case it fuses the floodlights.
I broke a chair there, wouldn't you? I see Mark broke a chair at Fev the other day, so you know. I feel,
in saying that,
he's slightly lighter than that.
The Wi-Fi doesn't work in the St Helens media room, and that's a new stadium. So, yeah, I mean, but no, it's just. I mean, it's only a good thing if they get the approval, much like Wakefield, to improve the stadium. I mean, as I said, they could bring in they can earn an extra £1 million.
Yeah.
A year for
They've
the
got
club.
to do
Great.
it.
Yeah.
They've got to.
It's long overdue.
And if they can retain the character that they've got at the moment, but modernise the facility, which I think is the plan, that works. This game, it will. I'm envious of you being there because I'd love to be there. I think the atmosphere is going to be. If you get 9,500 in that ground, it will be rocking. Yeah. So.
And I think in that game, I think
that'll inspire Cass in this first game.
I think with Salford as well, interviewing Ryan Brearley recently, he was sort of hinting that Salford might start a bit slow. It might take them a bit of a while to get going. They've got some injuries in the centres.
Three quarters.
Carl Watkins, Dan Sargentson's out. I think, I think it'll. I'm tipping Cass to win, so Salford will probably win by 40. But no, I think it could be a good.
I think if Jake Truman is fit, interested to see how he goes in a World Cup year because you can't have too much competition at half back. And again, I think Lee Radford will want to make a statement. Yes. His first game, it's at home. A lot of people are turning up. They've signed 5-6 players, which slightly means that they've got bigger backs and. They've lost Oliver Holmes and Peter Matauti, who arguably would be their best forward and best back over the last couple of seasons. So how they change that around would be really interesting. But I love watching Niall Evans play. Big season for Danny Richardson because I think he needs to stamp his mark
Shane as well. Yep.
Captain. But I think you know what you're going to get from him. So I think that'll be a great game. Cass for me, but again, first round you can't read anything into it.
I can't believe Adam Milner's 30. He doesn't look 30.
I
said, do you feel like you're a veteran? You've had your testimony. Do you feel like a veteran? He said, no. Don't speak like that. He's properly well spoken. He's Adam Milner. He went to a proper school. I've got Cass finishing 6th. Again, you don't care, but I'm telling you because I've got it written in front of me, so I'm going to tell you. Salford, I've got finishing 2nd bottom. So that's all.
I think it'll be really interesting to hinge on how Brodie Croft goes.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's a great signing.
We talk about Cade Cuss,
you
know, doing a Jackson Hastings. Well, Brodie Croft's the exact same. 2 NRL clubs.
Absolutely.
Was the next big thing.
I just think when you've come through the Melbourne system, and then you've not really made it when you've moved on. He more than anybody this year has a point to prove.
He does,
but he has the talent.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think if he can,
it's just whether he's got enough players around him that can capitalise on.
Well, if you look at the Salford team on paper, they've got a lot of experience there. You know, they've got a lot of internationals. So, Paul Rowley's never coached in Super League. Obviously, a long time in the Championship and a bit League One. So,
assistant at Super League.
Really interested to see how they go.
Who are the Toronto fans supporting this year? They're going to support Salford. I mean, we know Sandy's got a league season to go, hasn't she? She's a proper traitor. Speaking of Leeds,
she likes the pre-match fair.
Yeah, that's because she's in the posh sheets, isn't she? Leeds Rhinos versus Warrington Wolves, 12:30. It's on Channel 4, the home of kabaddi and sumo wrestling and Gaelic football, and now Rugby League with TV's Adam Hills and a cast of millions of celebrities who are all going to jump on the bandwagon. God knows who they're going to get for Wakefield Warrington next week. Does Adam Hills know anyone from Wakefield?
Well, they're doing
Jim McDonald.
They're doing St Helens and Hull.
No.
Or Hull and St Helens, as it is.
Warrington Wakefield must have been a few weeks.
Yeah. They've named their first 4 fixtures. So
the season's only started. I don't know who's playing who this week. I've got it right in front of me. And we just mentioned Casa playing Warrington on Thursday anyway. Leeds versus Warrington, and what's going to happen? Because obviously, as we mentioned earlier, there's no play costing, so things are going to have to be slightly different than planned.
I think the great thing is I have absolutely no idea, which is standard response to every game. But I genuinely think a lot of people will tune in or go to this game because they don't know what they're going to get. They don't know how Warrington are going to play under Darryl Powell. I think we all know how he'd like them to play, but will they be able to do that in the first game of the season? There's a feeling that Leeds have arguably made the best recruitment in terms of the quality of the players they've brought in and in the positions that they've got them. I think David Fussy too, he's somebody to get really excited about.
Could be a really great signing, yeah.
Could finish leading try scorer in Super League. You look at what he did at New Zealand Warriors when he was fit, and he's a world-class finisher. The one thing that he showed in the pre-season game, which again, don't read too much into it, superb taker of a high ball. And he's got Hayden Caesar and Blake Austin when he's playing kicking for him. So there's going to be options there. I think it has to make Harry Newman a better player because he needs to get the ball to the guy outside him who's a renowned finisher. So I think there's a lot of excitement around Leeds. A new half-back combination. James Bentley, exactly what they needed in the pack. A guy who is passionate about playing for the club because it's the one that he supported, but a bit of something about him. I think both of them will have great years. Who wins in the first week is less important, but I'm looking forward to it because I genuinely don't know who will win that game.
The interesting thing is, and the players won't care about this, and the coaches won't care about this. If this is a great game, that's the most important.
That's the only thing. That is the only thing. Well, the last time they played at Headingley was what 27-26. George Williams dropping the goal with his first real impact when he joined Warrington. Yeah, we'd settle for something like that for the sake of the sport.
You know, people say if you're going out, leave Channel 4 on your telly because it don't count. That's not how it works. But if you've got like all four afterwards, watch the repeat because that is a number that is tangible. I mean, it's John's laughing at me. It's desperation stakes. Go get people. Go get fake viewing figures. 20 million people watched online.
20 billion.
Peaked at.
Yeah. Like the North Korean Super League. No. Yeah. Watch it online. Oh, it's going to be interesting.
I don't know what you two think, but I'm just excited because it could go either way.
Yeah, no, it's very hard. I think both Leeds and Warrington will be in that top 5 mix. I think, comparing them to maybe to Catalans and St Helens, and maybe just one quality player down,
which could be a prop for both of them.
Yeah, or fullback at Leeds. Are they solid enough there injury wise?
Well, I think with Jack Walker back, they've got cover.
Yeah, with the halves, Austin and Caesar both had pretty poor seasons last year. So whether they can get back to how they were a couple of years ago, or that partnership they had in Canberra, that'd be great to see. And again, Warrington, they're always the bridesmaids, aren't they? But very strong team on paper.
Yeah.
Just be interesting how Darryl Powell changes the dynamic there.
It's going to rain apparently, so you know who always wins in the rain.
Don't leave your telly on anyway because energy prices and the TV still blow up like they used to in the olden days. Please turn off your set. They used to say that, didn't they, in the olden days?
Was that after the national anthem?
National anthem, yeah. Or should we bring that back to get some more viewers? David's asked. Well,
you know who'd stand up and sing. If I know.
Did. Well, should we get him to do that on something? I wish I had that clip of him doing that on TalkSport because it was absolutely brilliant. David's asked, St Helens will no doubt win at a canter again this season. I long for the days when Saints, Wigan, Cass, Leeds, Bradford, Warrington provided a real competitive league. Is there a lack of quality players? Or have Saints just got... It's like in the Women's Super League where Saints and Leeds have got them all. And then
I think we've got a more even competition this year. Clearly there is a benchmark side. They've got the ability to match top-class players with a really good work ethic, and that after a while becomes very hard to beat. Melbourne Storm had that brilliantly salary capped sport. Every year you'd think most sides in the NRL had a chance of winning the competition, and Melbourne used to break that mould because they had a spine of top quality players and recruited brilliantly, bringing guys in around them, and St Helens have got that at the moment, and I don't think we should knock them for that. That's for everybody else to get to that level. But I think that you generally could make a case for 3 or 4 teams this year. That Saints would probably, as you say, have to suffer 3 or 4 injuries in key positions. But it's a long season. There's a lot of matches. There's going to be the Challenge Cup. There's going to be players from St Helens, probably more than any of the club, are in the representative games when the internationals come around.
Do we have rep games?
We have a
Combined Nations.
we have a rep
Oh, right,
round this
yeah.
year, and I think there's a hope that Wales and Scotland and Ireland will be playing as well. So,
Will those players be allowed to play?
well, it's a perennial issue, isn't it?
Yeah, I doubt it. But no, I think the difference is the youth systems.
Yeah.
I mean, St Helens, Wigan and Leeds have the best youth systems.
Absolutely.
And unsurprisingly have won the most Super League
funny that,
titles.
isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you look at St
not
Helens,
coincidence.
their academy, and obviously Wigan. And Wigan, I think, are relying on that a lot more. Maybe financially they need to, but yeah, the recruitment and the junior systems are the big difference.
But I genuinely do think that because we're back to a nearer normal season this year, because you have to factor in the last 2 years, COVID has played an impact, and clubs that have been decimated by it, not just have not been able to put their best team out on the weeks where players have been out, but players coming back from having suffered it were not at the level of fitness they needed to be at. And there has been an element within that of fortune as to when and how you got struck and how many, and that is not to detract in any way from the brilliance that St Helens have shown over the last 2 years, but I think there's more of a level playing field this year at the start, which is great.
Some people have already got Toulouse Olympique going down quicker, as we said earlier, than the luges. The luges I saw earlier at the Winter Olympic. Doubles luge. You've got to have some confidence in your partner in the doubles luge.
I thought you were going to use a different analogy then.
no.
Thank goodness
I
you
think
didn't.
if Corella doesn't play, and it looks like he may play somewhere, but if he doesn't play and they don't recruit anyone, they might not win a game. I mean, I don't want to put the mockers on them, or they might only win 2 or 3 games. But yeah, the big thing that could play a role, as we've seen with Huddersfield, is if unvaccinated players from there's a lot of unvaccinated players at particular clubs.
Yep.
And then they have to send weakened teams.
That
would
could
help them.
weigh in their favour in the first month of the season. When you look at some of the teams that have got to go over there, if
say a Castleford
or a Wakefield go without 6 of their top players, some of whom play in the spine positions, doesn't necessarily mean Toulouse will win. It's just evening out that playing field.
And there is a gap, as we've seen. The last few years, there is a gap between the Championship and Super League, and while they can compete on a one-off basis or whatever, it's that regularity.
Which brings up again a question that is not new, and is going to cause consternation. But you can't, on the one hand, extol the fact that this year we have a French derby for the first time, that it could bring television
we'll have a
numbers
Wakefield
down. And only give them a year. I think
Yeah,
whoever they
madness.
are, if from a marketing point of view you are saying it's great to have 2 French teams and it opens up some new markets, and Channel 4 are
Here's a
talking
World
about
Cup.
going to a game in the south of France, which is great. To then destroy that after a year seems to be self-defeating, I would say, which is not necessarily to deny anybody the opportunity to come up. We have seen when Catalan were first introduced that there was a moratorium on relegation. It did serve them well. Castleford did get relegated in their place for one of the years, but look at Catalan now, and it's taken 15 years to get. It might take Toulouse 15 years. The one thing we do know is it's the 4th largest city in France. It's a rugby city. It's deemed to be economically important for the sport moving forward for the World Cup. And
what's it taken them 6-7 years to get in the
Yeah,
Super League?
they've-
Took them a while to get out of League One and out of the Championship.
they've got a great facility. Apparently, it's a partnership with the Rugby Union Club rather than a tenancy agreement. There's a lot of reasons why the neutral fan would want them to stay up
Yes.
for the benefit of the game.
Yes.
And yet the likelihood is, if you go into a major sponsor in that part of the south of France, if you go into a potential broadcaster and they say, what can you guarantee us if we invest? And they go, you probably won't be here next year. I'll just put my checkbook.
Can you, speaking of partnerships with Rugby Union, can you guess at which point of the thing on 5 Live the other night I switched off?
I can't, because I don't know who were the guests.
No, it's the thing with Forty20 magazine columnist Martin Kellner.
Was he on? Oh, the
thing. Yeah,
oh, that. Well, you know who won though.
No, I don't know because I turned off.
This
halfway
house
through.
believes Rugby League. I mean, it's great that it was prefaced in this house believes Rugby League is better than Rugby Union. because the onus was on Rugby Union. Mr. K won.
No, excellent. That's good.
It's good to see too on the in the Six Nations in England. Obviously, the Rugby League spies, Martin Gleeson and Anthony Seibold, working to make England lose.
And Andy Farrell making Ireland win.
Yeah.
Is he not Andrew yet? Have they not rebranded him?
It's Saint Andrew, I think.
By the way, if you do want to send me any abuse on Twitter, use the hashtag Six Nations because I muted it. So you can call me whatever you want and I won't see it. I actually tried it. I tweeted something and I put Six Nations in it and it doesn't come up. So I can't see it. So if you want to send me abuse, do that. Paul has asked, before we get on to the big game, and I know we've got to go.
The chill will be getting cold.
Any news on the 2x10 leagues? No, we don't know what's happening. We'll ask Hunslet on Tuesday. They might know. They might know what's going on. No one knows what's going on. Finally, by the way, if you are in Hunslet if you are around, go to Hunslet on Sunday, 1 o'clock kick off. Hunslet versus Siddle, £5 to get in. Not bad, is it?
Be a good game as well.
Wakefield Trinity, Super Wakefield Trinity versus Hull FC. Sunday afternoon, 3 o'clock, Rugby League. Woof. Can't go. Working.
I am. I'm there. I was at the last.
For the pie?
Yeah. No, I'm actually working, but yeah, I will have a pie. I was there the last Wakefield game of the season when they absolutely obliterated Hull FC. I think it scored something like 4 or 5 tries in 10 minutes. For some reason, I can't get that game out of my head thinking that it will be much similar, but surely it will be much more competitive because Hull FC were dreadful that night.
I just hope Willie Poaching is a success because he is not only one of the nicest men in the world, but he plays the game the right way. I think he's got a great philosophy on life. I'd hate after 5 or 6 games people are saying,
Willie out.
Yeah. Get your Willie out.
We've just got Willie in. We aren't getting Willie out.
I'm a big fan of Francis Cummins as well as his assistant. I think the two of them work fantastically well together and see the game the same way. And I'd like that view of how you play the sport to be successful. I just have concerns for Hull. I know that.
I think Luke Gale, the moving on of Sneyd and Luke Gale for me is a bit of an odd signing because Luke Gale. Well, at his best, is a very, very good player.
Absolutely.
His age, his injury concerns.
I just also think it's a like for like, in the terms of their kicking game is predominantly.
I think Luke Gale's more of a runner than Sneyd, who's more of an organiser. But
I'm not sure you've changed a lot.
No. I don't think it brings a whole new dimension. You've got 2 old halves
What's
there
happening with Josh
Reynolds
as well?
Yeah.
I mean, again, he's come back late. He hasn't played in any pre-season games. So it hasn't really yet struck up a partnership with Gale.
I think the key in that team is Jake Connor. And obviously, if he's injured,
if he plays, we know has a broken hand.
And the big thing is the hooker, who I've not really seen play.
Lavadua, Fijian.
Yeah, I mean, from South Sydney, he didn't really play. I mean, obviously, in front of Damien Cook, he's not going to play, so he needs to be a success.
The other thing as well that I find really interesting, and you'll be able to see it firsthand, is making Gale captain. Because, again, you've got people like Danny Houghton, senior players there. Luke Gale's last captaincy didn't end well. So it's an interesting statement to then bring him new into the club and say, we're going to invest in you, that leadership role. He can do it. He is an inspirational player for those that are around him if he's got his game head on. But I just worry that it's quite an ageing squad. I was looking again for youngsters to pick out, and even the Brad Fashes and the Jordan Lanes, they've been there quite a while.
They're not
you
the
think
young,
they're the kids that are just breaking through, but actually
apart from Ben McNamara, there's
and when Josh Reynolds is fit, McNamara probably isn't going to play.
That's right. Yeah.
So I worry a little bit for Hull. I have a fancy for Wakefield,
and we know
in this game.
We know Adam Pearson has a ruthless edge, so you kind of think after what happened last season.
But he's also
Brett
announced
Hudson,
as well, 6,500 season ticket holders, which I think is a sort of a drop.
I think he did say it was a drop.
It doesn't sound like a lot, does it, for Hull, a big city
and lost
I think it's a
$1.5
big
million
loss,
quid.
Big loss,
And,
they've got the stadium issues.
The interesting, you look at those 2 Hull clubs, and we're going into the start of the season. We'll sit here next week, and Hull Car have been trashed, and Hull have won easily. if you talk about feel around a club,
Yes, mood.
the good factor is at Hull KR. They're moving in a direction where if you were a fan, you'd be itching to get there and watch them play. FC, maybe not so much. It's almost like the diehards are prepared to give them another chance, but they've lost a bit of an aura around.
If Rovers lose 2-3 games in a row, no one's going to be saying sack everyone, Hudgel out, are they? In the same way that if that happened across the city. And of course, Hull count the advantage, as Wakefield and Castlemaine do, of owning their own ground. So I think they own it. They own there's something to it. They've got more of a destiny over their own ground.
I think they're trying to buy it outright at the moment. But they have it. Yeah.
They've got more of a say what happens at Craven Park than whatever Hull FC stadium is called these days. So I think that's it, isn't it? Because it's on the telly. It started. You're missing Brian Carney. You're watching us for. People have stopped watching anyway. We'll be back Tuesday live in Hunslet. If you want to join us,
Please do.
Turn up. 7 o'clock. We'll be on. Scoey will be
Phoenix
there.
Bar.
Phoenix
Come and have a
Bar,
drink with us.
South Leeds Stadium.
Scoey will buy.
Scoey will be there. We're going to ask him how much of his book he wrote.
Gary Shouts on Gary Schofield.
Yeah, Gary Schofield's diary.
There's not a chance, is there?
No.
You know that.
I would like to read Gary Schofield's diary. I bet it's more... Well, I bet it's different to the Gary Schofield diary that came out in book form. Well, if we could ask the author, I don't know, but he's not here, is he? So we'll be back on Tuesday. Thank you for watching. We're back. I don't know when we'll be back after, because I don't know what day we're going to do, because obviously people want to watch the Championship or whatever, but we've got interviews lined up with people. I've got to, let me shut up, because the rugby's on. Go watch that. In fact, go on TalkSport too, because they're in the magazine, and Mark's on there. You can't escape from me.